Let me share with you a great secret. There are infinite states of consciousness, infinite worlds, infinite realities existing simultaneously in the imagination of God. And you, being God in expression, have access to all of these realities. The state in which you find yourself now is but one of countless states you could occupy. When I speak of parallel realities, I am not speaking theoretically. I am speaking of an absolute law that governs all of creation. The Bible tells us, "In my Father's house are many mansions." These mansions are not physical structures, but states of consciousness, each complete and imperfect in itself. Each state has its own world, its own experiences, its own relationships, its own circumstances. You are at this very moment stationed in a particular state, experiencing the world that corresponds to that state. If you don't like the world you see, then you must change the state from which you view it. You do this not by working on the world, but by working on yourself. Tonight, I will show you how to use your imaginative power to shift from your present state to the state of your desire. For when you learn to move in consciousness, the outer world must follow. For it is only the shadow of your inner activity. Consider what this means. If your desire exists as a reality now in a parallel state, then you don't need to create it. Your task is not to create, but to shift your consciousness to that state where your desire already exists. You need only to enter the state that contains the fulfillment of your desire. How then does one move from one state to another? By the use of your imagination, controlled and directed with purpose and love. For imagination is the bridge between the realities, the vehicle by which you travel from state to state. Let me ask you, what would it be like if your desire were already fulfilled? How would you feel? What would you see? What would you hear? What would you touch? If your desire were true this very moment, how would your inner conversations run? For your inner conversations are perpetually shaping your world. The first step in shifting to your desired reality is to clarify exactly what you want, not the means of achievement, but the end itself. Too many of you focus on the process, the how of achievement, when you should be focusing on the state of fulfillment. Remember, the means will unfold naturally when you have successfully shifted to the state where the end is accomplished. Now, having clarified your desire, you must construct a scene which, if experienced, would imply the fulfillment of your desire. This scene, properly constructed and experienced in your imagination, becomes the bridge between your present state and the state you wish to occupy. The scene must be one that is easily visualized. It should be natural, one that would follow the fulfillment of your desire. It should involve the use of as many senses as possible: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. The more senses you can incorporate, the more real your imagined scene becomes. For instance, if your desire is financial abundance, your scene might be a friend congratulating you on your new wealth, shaking your hands firmly, looking into your eyes with genuine pleasure. You would hear their voice, feel their touch, see the smile. You would experience the joy and relief of financial freedom. Having constructed your scene, you must then enter into it through the technique I call revision. Revision is not merely changing your thoughts about a situation. It is changing your perceptual experience of it. You revise by entering so completely into your imagined scene that it feels more real than your physical surroundings. You accomplish this by becoming physically still, closing your eyes to the world of sense and then projecting yourself into your imagine. You must feel the reality of it, react to it emotionally as though it were actually happening here and now. This is not mere visualization or positive thinking as commonly understood. This is an actual entry into another state of consciousness. When properly done, you will feel a shift within yourself, a change in your feeling tone, a new sense of self. This feeling is your signal that the shift has occurred. Now, many will ask, how long must I remain in this state before my outer world conforms to it? The answer varies, for time is relative to the intensity of your desire and the completeness of your imaginative act. Some desires manifest instantly. Others take time to unfold in the world of sense. But remember this, the manifestation begins the moment you successfully shift your state. Seed is planted, and it cannot help but grow into its appointed hour. Your task is not to dig up the seed to see if it's growing, but to remain faithful to your new state, regardless of appearances. The maintenance of your new state is crucial. You must learn to dwell in it, to make it your home. This is where many falter, for they return too quickly to their former state, drawn back by the evidence of their senses and the opinions of others. To maintain your new state, you must discipline your thoughts and inner conversations. You must speak from the state of fulfillment, see from it, think from it, and feel from it. Your entire consciousness must be aligned with the reality of your desire fulfilled. Let me share with you a personal experience. Years ago in New York City, during the Depression, I desired to travel to Barbados to visit my family. I had no money and no means of getting there. But rather than focus on the lack, I constructed a scene of being in my family home in Barbados. Each night as I fell asleep, I would imagine lying in my bed in Barbados, hearing the familiar sounds of the island, feeling the tropical breeze, smelling the distinct fragrance of my childhood home. I would fall asleep in this state, feeling the reality of being in Barbados. Within a few weeks, unexpected series of events unfolded. A friend offered me a ticket, another provided spending money, and soon I found myself actually in Barbados in the very room I had imagined. The outer world had rearranged itself to conform to my inner state. This is the law, and it never fails. But you must apply it with conviction and persist until your new state feels natural to you. For what feels natural to you defines your reality. Now let us delve deeper into the mechanics of this process. When I speak of parallel realities, I am speaking of something more profound than mere possibility. I am speaking of actual worlds, complete in themselves, awaiting your entrance. Think of it this way. God's infinite mind contains all possible states, all possible worlds. They exist now, complete and perfect. Your individual consciousness is like a tuner receiving the signals from the particular freat which is attuned. Change your attunement, and you change your world. This is not philosophy. This is practical metaphysics. This is the art of living deliberately, of choosing your reality rather than accepting one imposed upon you. This is the meaning behind the biblical injunction to choose this day whom we will serve. Many live their entire lives never realizing that they are choosing their reality in every moment by the state of consciousness they occupy. They believe themselves victims of circumstance, subject to the whims of an external world. But I tell you that all causation is from within out, never from without in. The outer world is simply a report, a shadow of your inner activity. Change your inner activity and the outer must follow. For the outer is only the inner projected. Let me give you a specific technique to practice. I call it living from the end. It is the art of assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled and living within that assumption as though it were already an accomplished fact. Begin by defining your desire clearly. Then ask yourself, how would I feel if this desire now fulfilled? Capture that feeling, that state of consciousness. Then throughout your day, recall this feeling and dwell in it as often as possible. When you wake in the morning before rising from your bed, enter this state. Feel the joy, the relief, the satisfaction of your desire fulfilled. Carry this feeling with you as you go about your day. Return to it whenever your attention is not required elsewhere. At night, as you fall asleep, once again, assume this feeling, for the feeling to only carry as you fall asleep is particularly potent in shaping your subconscious patterns, which in turn shape your outer world. This practice, maintained faithfully, will shift your entire consciousness to the state that corresponds to your desire fulfilled. And as your consciousness shifts, your experience must follow. Remember, though, that this is not a technique of escape from problems. It is a technique of transformation. You are not denying the facts of your present experience. You are transcending them by shifting to a state where different facts prevail. The Bible tells us, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." This transformation is what we are accomplishing through the disciplined use of imagination. We are literally renewing our minds, changing the content of our consciousness, and thereby changing our world. Now, some of you may be wondering about obstacles. You may be thinking, but what about the conditions of my life? What about the people who oppose me? What about my limitations? I say to you, there are no obstacles in consciousness. In your imagination, you are free from all limitations. And since imagination creates reality, when you change an imagination, the outer world must change to match it. If someone in your life seems to oppose your desire, you need not change them through persuasion or force. Change your concept of them in your imagination. See them as they would be if your desire were fulfilled. Hear them saying what they would say. See them doing what they would do if your desire were now a fact. This inner change in your attitude toward them will produce a corresponding change in their attitude toward you and your desire. For others can only reflect back to you your conception of them. The same applies to circumstances that seem to stand in your way. In your imagination, transcend them. See the end accomplished despite them. Feel the relief and satisfaction of having overcome them. This feeling state will find its way into expression, reorganizing your outer world to match your inner conviction. The world is infinitely responsive to your consciousness. It must be, for it is made of consciousness. The material world that seems so solid and unyielding is actually fluid and plastic to the touch. The touch is direct faith and persistence. Let me tell you of another personal experience that illustrates this principle. When I first came to America, I had a strong desire to share the truth I had discovered, but I had no platform, no audience, no means of reaching people. Rather than focus on these limitations, I began to imagine myself standing before large audiences sharing these truths. In my imagination, I could see the faces of those listening, feel the satisfaction of communicating effectively, hear the applause and words of appreciation afterward. I did this faithfully, night after night, falling asleep in the consciousness of being a successful speaker, reaching thousands with this message of truth. And though the outer circumstances showed no immediate change, I persisted in my imagination. Within a year, I found myself invited to speak to small groups, then larger ones. Opportunities unfolded in ways I could never have planned. People appeared who helped me establish lectures and classes. And eventually, exactly as I had imagined, I was standing before a large audience throughout America, sharing these very principles we discussed tonight. The outer world had reshaped itself to match my inner conviction, not because I manipulated external circumstances, but because I had shifted my state of consciousness. I had moved from one parallel reality, that of being unknown and without a platform, to another reality where I was doing exactly what I desired to do. This same principle applies to every area of your life, relationships, career, finances. There is no aspect of human experience that is not subject to this law. For the law is universal, and it is absolute, as within, so without, as above, so below. Now let's explore another dimension of this truth. Not only do parallel realities exist, but you are continuously moving between them, usually and consciously. Every change in your feeling state, every shift in your concept of self moves you from one reality to another. Most people do this haphazardly, drifting between states according to the circumstances they encounter and their reactions to those circumstances. But you can do it deliberately with purpose and direction. Consider your self-concept. The person you believe yourself to be determines the world you experience. If you believe yourself poor, you will experience a world that confirms this belief. If you believe yourself wealthy, you will experience a world that proves you right. The same applies to health, love, success, and every other aspect of life. Your concept of self is like a frequency to which your experience is attuned. Change the frequency, and you change the broadcast you receive. This is why it is written, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Your deep, persistent concept of self shakes your entire experience. And you can change this concept through the faithful use of your imagination. Every time you say, "I am," you are defining your reality. I am poor, I am sick, I am unlucky. These statements are not descriptions of facts. They are creative declarations that shape facts. Be careful then what you claim with the powerful words, "I am." Instead, regardless of appearances, dare to claim, "I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am fortunate." Not as affirmations to change your circumstances, but as acknowledgments of what is already true in the reality you wish to enter. For remember, you are not creating these states. They already exist. You are simply choosing which state to occupy. And you choose by your concept of self, by what you claim with "I am." The Bible tells the story of Jacob, who wrestled with an angel and would not let go until the angel blessed him. The angel asked, "What is your name?" And he replied, "Jacob," which means supplier or deceiver. But the angel said, "Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel," which means Prince of God. This story illustrates the transformation of self-concept. Jacob had to let go of his old concept of self as a deceiver and accept a new concept as a Prince of God. And as his concept of self changed, his reality changed with it. You too must wrestle with your angel, your ideal self, until you receive the blessing of a new name, a new concept of self. You must persist until you no longer think of your desire as something to be attained, but as something already attained, already part of your identity. This brings us to another important principle, the role of feeling in the manifestation process. It is not enough to visualize or affirm your desire. You must feel it emotionally, experience it as real. Feeling is the secret, the key that unlocks the door to manifestation. For feeling is the language of the subconscious, and it is the subconscious that connects you to the reality you seek. When you genuinely feel wealthy, the feeling of wealth pervades your consciousness and communicates to your deeper mind that wealth is your reality. Your subconscious then aligns all decisions, perceptions, and actions with this feeling of wealth, bringing it into physical expression. The same applies to health, love, success, and all other desires. The feeling is the secret. Capture the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and you have found the key to manifestation. But not just any feeling will do. The feeling must be consistent with the state you wish to enter. If you desire wealth but continue to feel lack and limitation, you remain in the reality of poverty. Your feeling determines your frequency, and your frequency determines which parallel reality you experience. So in your imaginal work, focus on capturing the feeling tone of your desire fulfilled. What would it feel like to be, have, or do what you desire? Capture that feeling and dwell in it until it becomes your predominant emotional state. This brings us to another principle, the importance of persistence. Manifestation is not always instantaneous. Sometimes the bridge of incidents that leads to your desire requires time to unfold in the world of space and time. During this period, you must persist in your new state despite any contrary evidence from your senses. This is the meaning of faith. The evidence of things not seen. You must be faithful to your imaginable act, dwelling in the reality of your desire fulfilled, even when your senses deny it. Remember the story of Joshua and the Battle of Jericho. The Israelites were commanded to march around the walls of Jericho for 7 days, and on the 7th day the walls fell. This story symbolizes the persistence required in consciousness before the outer walls of circumstance crumble. You too must march around the walls of your present limitations, faithful to your vision until those walls collapse and reveal the promised land of your desire. Many abandon their imaginal work too soon. They try it for a day or two, see no immediate results, and return to their former state. But manifestation follows cosmic law, not human impatience. The seed planted in consciousness needs time to germinate before it appears in the outer world. As Jesus said, first the blade, then the ear, then the full corn in the ear. There is an orderly process of manifestation that unfolds according to its own timing. Your task is to remain faithful to the end, to persist in your new state until it externalizes itself. This persistence requires discipline, for the mind tends to wander back to familiar patterns. You must train your attention to dwell on your desire fulfilled, to reject the evidence of your senses when it contradicts your vision. Each time your mind slips back to the old state, gently bring it back to the new. Each time doubt arises, counter it with the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Eventually, through persistence, the new state becomes your default reality, and manifestation follows naturally. There is another principle I wish to share with you tonight, one that is often overlooked in discussions of manifestation. That is the principle of detachment, or what I call divine indifference. After you have done your imaginal work, after you have shifted your state and captured the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you must release it. You must let go of anxiety, of constant checking to see if it's working, of obsessive focus on results. This detachment is not apathy or abandonment of your desire. Rather, it is supreme confidence that what is done in consciousness is done in reality and needs no further effort on your part. I think of a farmer who plants a seed. He does not dig it up every day to see if it's growing. He plants it, waters it, and then goes about his business, confident that the laws of nature will bring his harvest in due season. Similarly, you plant the seed of your desire in consciousness through your imaginal act. Then you water it with persistence in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. But then you must trust the process, going about your daily life with confidence that your harvest is assured. This divine indifference is the mark of true faith. It shows to truly believe in the reality of your imaginal act, so much so that you can release all anxiety about its manifestation. Jesus demonstrated this when he thanked God for having heard him before Lazarus emerged from the tomb. He did not thank God after seeing the results. He thanked him before, showing complete confidence that what was done in consciousness was already an accomplished fact. You too must develop this confidence, this divine indifference to results. Plant your seed, water it faithfully, and then release it to the perfect law that never fails. Now let us address some practical aspects of shifting realities. Many ask me, how often should I engage in this imaginal work? The answer depends on the individual and the desire. For some desires, a single intense imaginal act is sufficient. The state is entered so completely with such conviction that no repetition is necessary. The shift occurs in that moment and manifestation follows. For others, particularly those with deeply entrenched contrary beliefs, daily practice may be necessary. You may need to repeatedly enter your desired state until it becomes more familiar than your former state. The key is not frequency, but depth. One deeply felt, completely real, imaginal experience is worth more than 100 shallow visualizations. It is better to enter your desired state deeply once a day than to attempt it superficially 10 times. Quality, not quantity, determines the effectiveness of your imaginal work. Seek depth of feeling, completeness of experience, rather than repetition or duration. Another question often asked is, can I work on multiple desires simultaneously? Yes, you can, but with caution. The mind divided against itself cannot stand. If your desires are compatible, existing harmoniously within the same state of consciousness, you can indeed pursue them together. But if they require different states, different concepts of self, it is better to focus on one at a time. Master the art of shifting to one reality before attempting to enter another. Remember, too, that some desires contain others within them. If you desire wealth for the freedom it will bring, focus on the feeling of freedom directly. If you desire a romantic partner for the love you would experience, focus on the feeling of being loved. Often the greater state contains the lesser within it. Now, what about desires that seem impossible? What about the healing of conditions deemed incurable? The achievement of goals considered beyond reach? The attainment of what the world calls miracles? I tell you that in consciousness there are no limitations. All states exist now, including states where the impossible is natural and normal. Your task is not to create what does not exist. It is to enter a state where what you desire already exists. Remember the words of Christ. With God all things are possible, and you are God in expression. For God becomes your consciousness, is God consciousness, limited only by your acceptance of limitation. So do not be dismayed by the seeming impossibility of your desire. In the reality you seek to enter, it is not only possible, it is already accomplished. Your task is to shift your consciousness to that reality, to enter the state where the impossible is already done. This is the true meaning of prayer. Prayer is not beseeching an external God for favors. It is claiming what is already yours in a parallel reality. It is shifting your consciousness to the shape where your desire is fulfilled and then giving thanks for its fulfillment. As Jesus taught, when you pray, believe that you have received and you shall receive. Note the tense. Believe that you have received. Past tense. Not that you will receive, but that you have already received. This is entering the state where your desire is already fulfilled. This understanding transforms prayer from supplication to recognition, from asking to accepting, from future hope to present reality. It is the prayer of thanksgiving for what is already accomplished in consciousness, though not yet visible to the senses. Now, as we approach the conclusion of our discussion, let me emphasize one final principle. The importance of living from your new state, not merely visiting it occasionally during meditation or visualization. Many make the mistake of treating their imaginal work as a separate activity from their daily life. They enter their desired state for a few minutes each day, then return to their former state for the remaining hours. This divided consciousness cannot produce the results you seek. You must learn to live from your new state, to make it your home, to speak and act and think from it throughout your day. This means watching your thoughts, your words, your reactions. When you catch yourself thinking from your old state, gently shift back to the new. When you find yourself speaking as the person you no longer wish to be, correct your speech to align with your new identity. In every moment, you have the opportunity to choose which reality you occupy. Choose consciously, choose in alignment with your desire, and remember that this choice is made not just in formal meditation, but in every thought, every word, every reaction throughout your day. The state from which you live determines the reality you experience. So live from the state of your desire fulfilled. Make it your dwelling place, your habitual consciousness, your default reality. Do this, and you will find yourself shifting into parallel reality where your desire is no longer a desire but an experience, no longer a future hope but a present fact. In closing, let me remind you of the words of Scripture. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. This transformation is what we have discussed tonight. The shift from one reality to another through the renewing, the changing of your mind. You are not bound to the reality you now experience. You are free to choose any reality you desire, for all realities exist now in the mind of God, which is your own wonderful human imagination. So choose wisely. Choose the reality that reflects your highest aspirations, your deepest desires, your true nature as a divine being having a human experience. Choose, and through the faithful use of your imagination, enter fully into the reality of your choice. Do this, and you will discover the truth of what I have shared with you tonight. Parallel realities exist, and you have the power to shift into the one that fulfills your heart's desire. Remember always, your imagination is God in action. Use it lovingly, use it wisely, use it faithfully, and all things are possible to you. For imagination creates reality, and the reality you experience is the outpicturing of the state you occupy in consciousness. May the God in you, which is your own wonderful human imagination, guide you into the reality of your fulfilled desire. And may you use this power with love, with wisdom, and with faith for the blessing of yourself and all mankind. Now let me tell you a secret. The world you perceive is nothing more than the outpicturing of where you have placed your focus. Everything in your world, every circumstance, every relationship, every material condition is the harvest of seeds you have sown with your attention. Where attention goes, energy flows, and manifestation follows. You see, the creative power that sleeps within you responds not to idle wishes or fleeting thoughts, but to the state upon which you have placed your focus with conviction. The Bible tells us, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. But thinking is not enough. It is the sustained focus of thought imbued with feeling that reshapes your reality. I once knew a man who desired financial abundance. He would affirm daily, I am wealthy, yet continue to dwell in thoughts of lack, scarcity, and limitation. His words proclaimed abundance, but his focus remained fixed on absence. And so, absence persisted in his experience. His focus, you see, was divided. Now let me clarify what I mean by focus. Focus is not concentration that creates tension. True focus is the natural consequence of fascination. When you are fascinated by something, your attention is effortlessly drawn to it. This is the kind of focus that transforms. To create a new reality, you must become so fascinated with your desired state that it consumes your consciousness. You must live from it. View the world through its lens and respond to life as though your desire were already an accomplished fact. This is the new level of focus required for manifestation. The great tragedy is that most people focus intently on what they do not want and then marvel at why these unwanted things keep appearing in their lives. Do you not see? Whatever commands your focus multiplies in your experience, regardless of whether you want it or not. The outer world is dead. It has no power to create, no power to cause. It is simply effect and echo, a shadow of your inner focus. Change your focus, and you change your world. This is the law. Now, what does this new level of focus look like in practice? It requires 4 elements: clarity, consistency, conviction, and detachment. First, clarity. You must know precisely what you desire. Vague wishes produce vague results. Define your desire in vivid detail. See it, feel it, touch it in your imagination. Make it as real to your senses as the chair you sit upon. I recall working with a young woman who wanted to find her ideal partner. When I asked her to describe this person, she gave only the most general description: someone kind. She said, someone who loves me. I told her, your focus lacks definition. Sharpen your vision. What values must this person embody? How do you feel in their presence? What kind of life do you share together? As she brought her desire to sharper focus, her manifestation accelerated. Second, consistency. A focused mind is one that returns again and again to the same assumption, building conviction through repetition. The world is changed not by sporadic bursts of imagination, but by the groove worn deep by consistent focus. Think of it this way. If you plant a seed and dig it up each day to check its progress, it will never grow. Similarly, if you assume your desire one moment, then return to the old state the next, you uproot the seed of manifestation before it can take root. Consistency of focus allows the seed to flourish unseen until it breaks through into expression. Consider the story in Scripture of the prophet Elijah. He sent his servant 7 times to look for signs of rain during a drought. The servant saw nothing 6 times, but Elijah maintained his focus, knowing the rain would come. On the 7th time, the servant reported seeing a small cloud. From this tiny manifestation came abundant rain. Had Elijah abandoned his focus after the first or second attempt, the manifestation would have been aborted. Third, conviction. It is not enough to think about your desire, you must think from it. This is faith. The substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Conviction is the feeling that your desire is done, finished, complete in the invisible realm, and must by law appear your visible world. Let me tell you of a man I knew who desired a promotion at work. For months, nothing happened, though he affirmed his desire daily. When I spoke with him, I discovered that he was affirming from a place of doubt. He was saying the words, but did not believe them. I told him, you must convince yourself first. You must reach such conviction that even if the whole world denied it, you would stand unshaken in your assumption. He began to imagine each night just before sleep that his colleagues were congratulating him on his promotion. He felt their handshakes, heard their words, felt the joy in his heart. He did this with complete conviction, as though experiencing a memory rather than creating a fantasy. Within 3 weeks, he received to see the promotion, a position that had not even existed when he began his focused work. Fourth, detachment. This seems paradoxical, but true focus includes the ability to detach from the how and when of manifestation. Attachment creates anxiety, and anxiety dilutes focus. When you truly know that your desire is yours, you can release the urgency and desperate longing that indicates lack of faith. Detachment means you plant the seed, water it with attention, and then allow the invisible forces of creation to do their perfect work without interference. It is the opposite of indifference. It is supreme confidence that what is done in consciousness must appear in reality. Now let me address a question that may have formed in your mind. If focus is so powerful, why do I sometimes focus intently on something and still not perceive it? The answer is simple but profound. Your conscious focus must be aligned with your subconscious assumptions. You see, your subconscious mind holds beliefs about yourself and the world that may contradict your conscious wishes. And it is the subconscious that truly determines your focus. You may consciously focus on wealth while subconsciously believing you are unworthy of abundance. In such a case, your true focus, your subconscious focus, is on unworthiness, not on wealth. This is why I teach the technique of feeling the wish fulfilled as you fall asleep. In the drowsy state between wakefulness and sleep, the conscious mind relaxes its guard and the subconscious becomes receptive to new impressions. Impress upon your subconscious the feeling of your wish fulfilled, and your entire being, conscious and subconscious, will align in perfect focus. Let me tell you a personal story. Years ago, I desired to travel and lecture throughout the United States, sharing these principles with all who listen. At the time, I had no means, no connections, no invitations. But each night I would fall asleep feeling the satisfaction of having completed successful lectures across the country. I felt the handshakes, heard the applause, experienced the gratitude of those whose lives had been transformed. I maintained this focus not for a night or a week, but consistently. And though the way was not immediately apparent, doors began to open. An invitation came from one city, then another. The mist for travel appeared. Within a year, what had existed only in my focused imagination became my living reality. The Bible says, the light of the body is the eye. This is not speaking of the physical eye, but a focus where you place your attention. If therefore thine eye be single, if your focus be undivided, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if your focus is scattered, divided between what is and what could be, between faith and doubt, how great is that darkness? This is why a new level of focus is required for manifestation. Not the ordinary focus that shifts and wavers with circumstances, but a transcendent focus that remains fixed on the invisible reality of your desire until it solidifies in the visible world. Now, there is a certain practice that I have found invaluable for developing this transcendent focus. Each day, preferably in the morning when your mind is fresh, and in the evening before sleep, enter into a state of relaxation. Let your body become comfortable and your mind still. Then direct your attention inward to the center of your being, to that place where you know yourself to be. I am from this center. Consciously choose where to place your focus. See your desire as accomplished. Step into the scene. Make it first person, present tense. Do not see it as something that will happen. Experience it as something that is happening now. Involve all your senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What would you taste or smell in the state of your wish fulfilled? Remain in this state for at least 5 minutes, fully absorbed in the reality of your desire fulfilled. Then throughout your day, when doubts arise, the old patterns of thought return, as they surely will gently bring your focus back to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This consistent redirection of focus is the discipline that leads to mastery. Let me share with you the testimony of a student who applied this principle of focused imagination. She had been estranged from her adult son for nearly a decade. No communication, no reconciliation. Despite many attempts, she came to understand that her focus had been on the arrangement itself, on the pain of separation, on all the reasons why reconciliation seemed impossible. I instructed her to shift her focus completely. Each night I told her, as you lie down to sleep, imagine hearing your son's voice on the telephone. Hear him express his love for you. Feel the warmth in your heart as reconciliation occurs. Fall asleep in this state. For 1 month, she maintained this focus with unwavering consistency. She reported that at first it was painful, as it highlighted the absence of what she desired. But gradually, the imaginal scene began to feel more natural, more real. Then one day, without any action on her part, the telephone rang. It was her son. The conversation mirrored what she had been imagining, even specific phrases she had heard in her imaginal scene. You see, her new level of focus had reconstructed her reality. She did not convince her son to call. She simply shifted the focus of her own consciousness, and all parties involved in her reality rearranged themselves to match her new focus. This is the creative power that sleeps within you. You are not a helpless observer of your life. You are its author. But authorship requires focused attention on the story you wish to write. Now, some of you may be thinking, this sounds like magical thinking. The world is real, solid, governed by physical laws. And to this I say, the physical universe is indeed governed by law, but it is the law of consciousness, not the laws of physics, that is fundamental. Physics describes the behavior of manifestation. Consciousness is the source of what manifests. Science itself is now confirming what the mystics have always known, that matter is not solid, but is mostly empty space, that a particle will pop in and out of existence, that observation of the behavior of particles. In other words, focus, conscious attention directly impacts physical reality. Quantum physics speaks of the observer effect, where the mere act of observation changes the behavior of subatomic particles. Is this not precisely what I am describing? Your focus, your observation changes the very fabric of your reality. Think about it this way. Your world is not outside you. The world you experience is a projection from within, filtered through your focus. Change your focus, and you change the projection. This is not fantasy. This is the fundamental nature of reality. Consider the placebo effect, scientifically documented countless times. A patient believes they are receiving medicine, though they are given a sugar pill, and their body responds as though they received the actual medicine. Their focus, their belief, created physiological changes. This is not anomalous. It is a glimpse into the true creative process. But here is where many stumble. They try to use the power of focus as a technique while still believing in the supremacy of external conditions. They affirm abundance while believing in the reality of their limitation. They visualize health while believing in the power of their disease. Their focus is divided, and a divided focus cannot create coherently. A new level of focus requires a new understanding of the nature of reality. You must grasp, not intellectually but experientially, that the world shapes itself around your focus. As within, so without. As above, so below. This is the Hermetic principle that has been taught through the ages. Let me offer a practical exercise to develop this new level of focus. I call it living from the end. For the next 30 days, choose one desire that you wish to manifest. Make it something believable to you, yet not currently present in your life. Each morning upon waking, each evening before sleeping, and at least once during the day, close your eyes and enter the state of your wish fulfilled. Experience it with all your senses. Feel the emotion that accompanies its fulfillment. Give thanks for its completion. Then open your eyes and proceed with your day, but maintain the feeling that your desire is already accomplished. When you speak, speak from this assumption. When you act, Act from this assumption. When you think from this assumption. At first, this will require conscious effort. You will catch yourself reverting to old patterns of focus. When this happens, do not condemn yourself. Simply notice and gently bring your focus back to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Persistence is key. Remember, you are establishing a new pattern of focus, and all new patterns require repetition until they become automatic. After 30 days of this practice, your subconscious mind will begin to accept your new focus as reality. And when the subconscious accepts something as real, it must externalize it in your experience. This is law. Now, I must address a critical point. This new level of focus cannot coexist with fear, worry, or anxiety. These emotional states indicate focus on what you do not want, and what you focus on expands when fear arises, and it will recognize it as a signal that your focus has shifted to an undesired outcome. Then consciously redirect your focus to the desired state. There is a passage in Scripture that beautifully illustrates this principle. Jesus was with his disciples in a boat when a storm arose. The disciples were terrified, focusing on the dangers of the storm. Jesus was asleep, undisturbed. When they woke him, he rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. Then he said to his disciples, "Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" The disciples' focus was on the storm, on what they feared. Jesus' focus remained on perfect peace and safety, regardless of appearances. His faith, his unwavering focus on the desired state, calmed the waters. This is not merely a historical account or a miracle performed by someone special. It is a demonstration of the power available to anyone who maintains the proper focus. You are not required to calm literal storms, but you are called to calm the storms of circumstance in your life through proper focus. When the evidence of your senses contradicts your desire, where you focus on the temporary facts or upon the eternal truth of your creative power, there is another aspect of focus that is rarely discussed but vitally important. If you desire a loving relationship, focus not merely on finding a specific person, but on being loving in consciousness. How does a person who is deeply loved and loving think? How do they feel? How do they interact with others? Embody these qualities now, and the specific manifestation will follow. This shift from having to being is a profound one. It moves your focus from external conditions to internal states where true creative power resides. External conditions will always change and can be lost. What you become in consciousness is eternal and can never be taken from you. I knew a woman who desperately wanted to be married. Her focus was entirely on finding a husband, as though a piece of herself was missing and needed to be found externally. Despite numerous relationships, fulfillment eluded her. When we spoke, I suggested that she shift her focus from finding love to being loved, to embodying the consciousness of someone in a loving, fulfilling marriage. She began to focus on feeling complete within herself, appreciating her own company, making decisions from a place of partnership, even while physically alone. Within her own consciousness, she lived as though her perfect marriage was already a reality. She focused on gratitude for her wonderful husband, though no physical man was present. Within 3 months, she met a man who perfectly matched the consciousness she had been embodying. Their connection was immediate and deep, and they married within a year. But here is the interesting part. She later told me that even if she hadn't met him, she had already found what she was truly seeking. The feeling of completeness, connection, and love that she thought could only come from a relationship. This is the paradox of manifestation through focus. When you focus on lacking something and needing to get it, you perpetuate the consciousness of lack. When you focus on already being and having what you desire, you establish the consciousness of fulfillment, and the external must follow suit. Let us return to the core of our discussion. Everything you desire requires a new level of focus. Not the divided, wavering focus of the undisciplined mind, but the single-pointed, unwavering focus of one who knows their creative power. This focus is not strain or tense. It is the natural absorption in a beloved idea. It is falling in love with your vision so completely that it occupies your mind effortlessly. This kind of focus generates energy rather than depletes it. I urge you to take inventory of where your focus currently resides. What occupies your mental attention throughout the day? What thoughts do you return to habitually? What emotions dominate your inner landscape? These are the seeds that are growing into the circumstances of your life. If you do not like what you see manifesting in your experience, do not waste energy fighting against it or resisting it. all resistance amplifies. Instead, shift your focus completely to what you desire to experience. Give it your attention, your emotion, your conviction. Water this new seed with consistent focus until it crowds out the unwanted growth. Remember, the external world has no power over you except the power you give it through your focus. When you know this, truly know it, not just intellectually, but in the depths of your being, you become the master of your fate, the captain of your soul. Now, there is one final aspect of focus I must address, and it is perhaps the most important. The highest use of this creative power is not for material gain or personal advantage, though these are natural byproducts. The highest use is for the expansion of consciousness itself, for the realization that you are more than you appear to be. Focus ultimately on the grandest version of yourself, on the divine potential that sleeps within you. Focus on embodying love, wisdom, compassion, creativity. Focus on expressing the fullness of your being. You transcend the limitations of personal will and align with divine will, which always leads to greater freedom, greater joy, greater fulfillment than the personal mind could imagine. So I say to you tonight, everything you desire requires a new level of focus. Not more effort, not more struggle, not more sacrifice, but a new quality and direction of attention. Focus determines experience. Focus on problems, and problems multiply. Focus on solutions, and solutions appear. Focus on lack, and lack persists. Focus on abundance, and abundance grows. Focus on love, and love surrounds you. Focus on limitation, and you remain confined. Focus on possibility, and your world expands. The choice is always yours in each moment. Your power is not in some distant future when conditions improve. Your power is now in the focus you choose in this moment and the next after that. Begin tonight. As you leave this place, consciously direct your focus to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Maintain this focus despite all evidence to the contrary. Return to it when you waver. Strengthen it when you doubt. Live from it when appearances mock it. And watch as the invisible gradually becomes visible. As your focus creates your reality, you are the operant power in your universe. You are the focus through which the infinite expresses itself. You are not merely human, you are divine, and your focus is the instrument of your divinity. Feel it now, know it now, live from it now, and watch as your world transforms before your very eyes. Remember the words of the psalm. Be still and know that I am God. In that perfect stillness of mind, in that single-pointed focus on the divine within, all things become possible. For when you know, truly know, that the I am within you is God, there is nothing to fear, nothing impossible, nothing beyond your creative reach. Everything you desire requires a new level of focus. Give yourself that gift. Focus on the highest, the best, the most beautiful, and true. Focus as though your fulfillment depends upon it, because it does. The world awaits your focus command. Speak it with conviction. Feel it with emotion. Know it with certainty, and watch as the universe conspires to bring it into being. For this is the law, and this is the promise. As within, so without. As above, so below. As you focus, so shall it be. Tonight you have been given the key. Use it wisely. Use it lovingly. Use it with conviction. And all that you desire shall be added unto you. When you leave this place, do not return to old patterns of thought. Maintain your new awareness, your new focus. For you have not heard these words by accident. You were drawn here by your own readiness to receive this truth. Now, having received it, you must live it. Go forth in the confidence that the creative power of the universe flows through you, that your focus directs this power, and that as you maintain your focus on the fulfillment of your desires, nothing can prevent their manifestation. I have shared with you the secret of creation itself. Honor it with your practice, prove it with your experience, and share it through your transformed life. Everything you desire requires a new level of focus. Begin now and make this the foundation of a new and glorious chapter in your journey. For you are meant to have all that your heart truly desires, not through struggle and strain, but through the focused power of your divine imagination. Now, let us close our eyes for a moment and feel the absolute truth of these words. Feel the presence of your fulfilled desire as a present reality. Know that it is done. Give thanks for its completion and carry this feeling with you as you go forward, maintaining your focus on the invisible reality until it becomes visible for all to see. Thank you and blessings on your journey of conscious creation.